Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the ninth gene key. Today I'd like to go over some of the shadow aspects and where and how they might show up in our life. I'd like to go over the city as a reminder of what the natural state looks and feels like, how the situation might appear if there are no concerns of the shadow, and how through the gift we could remedy the shadows that emerge in our life and bring us back into a state of harmony wherever the shadows have occurred. Today the shadow is of inertia, and the city is invincibility. And we can remedy inertia through determination to bring us back to the city of invincibility. In the shadow of inertia, we can see it quite manifest in our life, where if we repress the nature of the shadow, we're not in alignment with the city, it could fall under repressive natures or reactive natures. I'm going to read a little bit here. It manifests as our seeming inability to do anything about our situation, despite the fact that we understand it and even see our way out. The reluctance to move out of one's patterns is not a conscious choice, but an inner dynamic where all of one's life remains frozen. This reluctance is essentially a paralysis of our own will, brought by following familiar repetitive patterns that do not serve us. To break out of our inner reluctance is to leave our safety zone and move directly into our fears. It can be frustrating to onlookers that these people are unable to break their pattern, but it's just as frustrating for those in the grip of such deep-seated fear. Ultimately, it comes down to the power of the human will to either break through or fall into continual and miserable decline. So, inertia is this aspect that we may know what to do. We may be aware of the situation. Even the step required to get us to where we need to go, or accomplish what we need to accomplish. But there is something that just doesn't allow us to utilize our energy and execute those actions. There is inertia. And it is rooted in a type of fear. Now the reactive nature is diverted. The reactive nature of the ninth shadow involves a totally different kind of inertia. These people are highly restless and fidgety, as though nothing inside them can sit still. Their tactic is diversion, and they unconsciously seek any stimulus to draw some of their energy and fury out of their body. Naturally, such people cannot sustain this escapist pattern indefinitely, and it takes enormous toll on their health and often their finances. These people cannot find a fixed pattern in life at all. If they were to do so, all their rage would explode out of them. This makes it impossible for them to maintain serious commitments for any length of time. Although their lives are not inert in the strict sense of the word, they are inert in terms of fulfillment because they can simply never rest or relax. One of the modern expressions of the ninth shadow is our addiction to trivia, details, and trappings extraneous and unnecessary to our lives. Unless it is either beautiful or practical, it can safely be classified as trivia. The shadow draws your energy away from that which truly matters to you, which is beauty. Lack of enthusiasm leads to lack of energy and vice versa. You may believe that you are taking steps to change when in fact all you are doing is going around in circles, still focused on details that are essentially irrelevant. The only way out of the field of inertia is to punch through it with one huge act of will. So the idea of the shadow here is that we have our heart's desire, our highest goal, our highest alignment, something that we truly spiritually want to aspire to, that we, that dream of ours, right? For so many reasons we might settle for otherwise or be caught up in other things, but when we have a road laid out in front of us, that we can actually take the steps and just, I think the most classical thing that we can maybe feel, that like the most common thing, not to make it so, this deep, passionate dream come true. We know that when we have dishes to do, you just do them, right? There's no way to think about them. We just will ourselves to go through it and do it. And I feel like perhaps that is the most common way anybody who has ever dealt with doing dishes, and I'm really trying to simplify this to as much as I can, to a very common thing. Because on a deeper level, it's what holds us back from living out a dream come true. Is that very same just willful exploration. In the gift of determination, every intentional act is a magical one. All the little acts done with heart begin to build up inner momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. So this is a build-up. It seems as though the deflation in our spirit is what causes inertia. When we pray, when we act out of intention, when we do constant mindful, in so many movies, I would wonder, like where they had like there's a samurai that's sent out to take out a person, and they finally get the person, and the samurai is supposed to do some type of warrior death for the person, and before the samurai, this is a story here, and you see it in many different movies. the person always calls them a name or spits at them. And it's like, what is that going to do? And when we go to act with intention, it means that there's a place in which these actions are going to come from, a place of meaning. That when we carry out an action, it's not just an action. There's a meaning behind it, and there's momentum in that meaning. It's a building of our character. It's it's a building of our spirit. And it gives us momentum in facing more aspects of our life. You know, I find this line here. The strange thing about the gift of determinism is that the more determined you become, the less energy and willpower you have to use. So here the gift is determinism. But if we actually think about the feeling of being determined, and that being our ability to do things, it's actually draining because it's out of alignment. The real alignment here, all those little acts done with heart begin to build up an inner momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. The force of the entire universe begins to gather behind such a person. It is only at the beginning that you have to use great force, because those first few steps out of the shadow frequency take such enormous strength of will and courage. And so perhaps we struggle with the dishes in the beginning. And one day we leave a plate and then that plate turns into cups and right, it builds up. So the goal is, once we do that first willful amount, and then as we cook, we do the dishes as we go, and the more we do it over and over, it may always seem difficult because we're doing it to get through it. But when we have higher momentum, right? What's that? When people always say, if I want to clean my house, I invite people over, right? Because now the meaning is different. It has different momentum. I'm cleaning my house not for me, but for my guests. There's a different energy that comes there's a different spirit that comes in. And now we have the ability to take care of things, right? To accomplish the goal. So it's not so sometimes maybe the goal is too hard or too difficult, but are we aligning ourselves with the right spirit within us that is willing to get those actions done? This is our way of coming back into the city, where we find ourselves dealing with the manifestation of the shadow. It seems here that determination is more of the structure instead of the process, that we are determined to our highest alignment, to the spirit, whether we pray or whatever brings us in our spiritual exploration. When we align with that, the determination seems more like, are we staying in alignment? It's not just the alignment, but maintaining that. Are we determined to call on that spirit? Now, the city of invincibility, which is interesting here, right? This is a quality of every moment, is a state of invincibility. At the highest level of consciousness, levels themselves disappear. Outer space becomes inner space. time becomes infinite yet absolutely present, and all boundaries are absorbed by consciousness itself. Now, the moment something loses all boundaries, it becomes two contrary things. It becomes simultaneously defenseless and invincible. Invincibility can therefore be defined as merging your individual awareness back into consciousness of the universe. So it seems as though there is something here that when we align ourselves with our heart, our higher to aspire to this place of our heart or harmony, however that might be, because it's not something of the mind. Again, this is when we reach these acidic states. So far it seems like the sense is somewhere else that we are becoming present with. It appears that the mind is not the mind at being present is something that is of peace. The mind is in this well, I guess that it's present as well. And you must capture the energy of your dream and hold on to it deep inside, because it is that dream that will act as the lens to focus the power of magic and manifestation in your life. So it seems the more we connect with our heart, and our heart is in some way aligned of whether it's a type of service or a higher, it holds space for more for others as well. It's more universal. And there's, maybe there's something about that the heart is this level of magnetism, right? That when it's spatial, and the end of our mental experience of time will therefore be triggered by human auras interacting with each other. In this respect, humanity will only become invincible when it realizes its collective nature, at which point the individual becomes invisible? When it realizes its collective nature. So at the acidic state, when we're acting from a place of our heart, it seems like we have unique angles, but it's really, we're sharing a type of space there. And I guess, the more we address this idea of consciousness, there is a level in which there is no line. All the lines start to become more and more blurred. And the difference between you, me, and another person, another being, another thing, in consciousness, eventually that line is shared, right? Like doorways, perhaps. There's a way where it's, you know, the walls are not such a boundary, right? We are more in an ocean filled with water. So, in short, we have the shadow that manifests in our life. And wherever we feel that there is something that we have, that we've been meaning to address, that we've been meaning to do, that we know that if we just addressed it, it will take care of or move things forward, we are dealing with the ninth shadow. There is inertia that we are needing to overcome. And it seems to me that this is something that speaks to the spirit, that this is where we need to ask, am I in the right spirit? Have I lost some type of meaning? Am I doing this from the right place? And then I believe as we build up our spirit, that momentum, that inner momentum, through will and alignment, in the right spirit, however we build that up, through service, through prayer, through whatever that is, it's never something that we have to think about. We never have to think about doing the dishes. It is just having the right spirit that does it, that is willing. It's just being connected to the spirit that is willing to do it. That's my interpretation for the 19th today. Definitely went a little bit longer than I expected. I hope there's something here for you today. Thank you. And there's definitely more I could go into, but that's my interpretation for now. And I think it at least touches on everything that I'm trying to kind of start to make a list of what I touch based on, and where the shadow manifests, what the city is in its natural state, and how we can remedy the shadows that occur, wherever they might be, back into their natural state. That seems to be kind of the thing that I can find here. Okay. Thank you again for joining me today on another GENEKEY. Till next time.